Clearly, this is not the EBRD's press conference, but good afternoon, distinguished guests and esteemed panelists. Welcome to, I'm delighted to welcome you to the Kazakhstan Investment Outlook session held in EBRD's annual general meeting here in beautiful Samarkand, Uzbekistan. My name is Hüseyin Özhan. I am the country director for EBRD in Kazakhstan. First and foremost, I would like to express my gratitude to our hosts in neighboring Uzbekistan for their warm hospitality. It is an excellent opportunity for us to showcase the potential investment opportunities in Kazakhstan and to foster closer collaboration. Before we begin, I would like to run you through or mention a few housekeeping matters. Firstly, this event will be simultaneously translated in Russian and English, and you can find the headsets on your seats. Secondly, during the session, we will be conducting live polls. Indeed, we will have actually 4 questions, so whether you are here with us or online, simply get your mobile phone and scan the QR code on screen or in front of you. Of your seats to go on slido.com and input the code 8349449 and then select Kazakhstan, our event, Kazakhstan Investment Outlook session. Additionally, closer to the end of the session, you can also ask your questions through the Slido app or via the QR code as well. Today's discussion will focus on how Kazakhstan can create attractive opportunities for the import of capital and expertise in general and across 4 key topics. These are transport infrastructure and connectivity, banking sector and potential privatization opportunities, renewable energy, and also critical raw materials and mining. Together with our panelists, who will include policymakers, domestic and international investors, as well as from the EBRD and IFI perspective, will conduct a discussion on how Kazakhstan's objectives in these areas that I mentioned. In particular, we will discuss the east-west connectivity and invigoration of the Trans-Caspian route, the banking sector and potential privatization opportunities, Kazakhstan's ambitious goals for renewable energy and the potential for development of critical raw materials in the country. I'm confident that today's panelists will provide valuable insights into the investment outlook of Kazakhstan and that our discussion will lead to deeper understanding of the opportunities as well as the challenges that lie ahead. Now, let me introduce to you our esteemed panel. First, we are honored to have Mr. Davran Kembale, the Vice Minister of Finance and alternate Governor for the Republic of Kazakhstan at EBRD. And then we have Ms. Katya Miroshnik, Director of Infrastructure Eurasia, responsible for Central Asia and the Caucasus. And then we will have, on the far side, Mr. Adil Mohamejanov, Deputy Chairman of the Management Board of Bayterek National Management Holding. Then immediately on my left, we have Claudine Zhu, Chief Financial Officer of the China Power International Holding, a big renewables investor, especially in Kazakhstan. And then finally on screen, we have Alex Walker, CEO and Executive Director of Eastar Resources. Once again, I am delighted to have you all here, and I look forward to a fruitful and engaging discussion. Before I give the floor to Mr. Kembale, I'd like to present a short video.
Today, Kazakhstan offers increasingly attractive business environment. Since independence in 1991, the country has attracted over $380 billion of FDI, thus maintaining its position as the largest economy and FDI recipient in Central Asia. So, why Kazakhstan is an attractive investment destination? Strategically located at the heart of Eurasia, Kazakhstan boasts abundant natural reserves, efficient manufacturing base, and qualified labor. The country offers favorable investment climate and comprehensive state support across various sectors. As the gateway to the world's largest markets, Kazakhstan provides multimodal logistics opportunities and direct access to the market of more than 1 billion customers. Kazakhstan offers comprehensive support for investment projects, including fiscal and non-fiscal incentives. There are 13 special economic zones with a wide range of investment preferences and 36 industrial zones. Now, strategic investors have the opportunity to sign a custom-made agreement directly with the government that ensures various incentives and stability of legislation up to 25 years. Thanks to the government's efforts to diversify the economy, vast investment opportunities are opening up in various sectors, including agribusiness, mining, pharmaceuticals, metallurgy, tourism, and others. Invest in Kazakhstan, the land of great opportunities.
As you can see, Kazakhstan not only have vast opportunities, but also it has a robust track record of realized investments and influx of FDI into the country. Now, may I kindly invite Mr. Davran Kembayel, Deputy Minister of Finance, to the lectern to deliver his keynote speech.
Assalamu alaikum, Hanundar wa Janublar, dear ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, allow me to show my gratitude to our fellow brotherly people, Uzbek people, and the team of the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development for the warm hospitality and tremendous level of organization of such an event on the sunny day like this in Samarkand. It is a gratifying feeling that this year's investment session is dedicated to Kazakhstan. Taking this opportunity, I want to demonstrate the economic capabilities of our country and discuss the issues of financial cooperation and attracting investment. Historically, Kazakhstan adheres to the principle of a multi-vector foreign policy and maintains friendly relations with all countries. Today, there are almost 40,000 companies with foreign participant in our country. This figure is only increasing every year. This shows the confidence of our partners in the policy of the head of state and the work of the government as a whole. Our President, Kassym-Jomart Tokayev, has repeatedly noted that the policy of open doors for foreign investment remains a strategic priority of Kazakhstan. To this end, the government is constantly working with create comfortable conditions for doing business in our country. Kazakhstan has concluded more than 50 agreements with other countries to protect and promote investments. There is a visa-free regime for investors from 54 countries, including Japan, USA, UK, Germany, and others. A special instrument of state support has been introduced, which is investment agreement. It ensures the stability of legislation for up to 25 years. Tax preferences and in-kind grants provided in priority sectors. I would like to note separately that tax rates in Kazakhstan among the lowest in the world. The CPN is 20% and the VAT is only 12%. In the oil and gas industry, there is an improved model contract for complex projects. It provides for broader and long-term fiscal benefits. There are certain special economic zones in the country with ready-made infrastructure and a wide range of investment preferences. There is also 36 industrial zones with turnkey infrastructure. An additional mechanism for supporting investors is subsidizing loans for foreign buyers and guaranteeing export transactions. In addition, Kazakhstan is magnetic for its economic stability, secured by 95 billion in international reserves. It should be noted that Kazakhstan has a fairly high credit ratings. Despite external challenges, according to the results of last year, the gross inflow of foreign direct investments to Kazakhstan amounted to 28 billion. This indicator has become a record in the last 10 years. At the same time, the net inflow of foreign capital into the national economy amounted to $6.1 billion. It is gratifying that the positive trend in the domestic economy continues this year too. Thus, GDP has accelerated to 4.9% by the end of the first quarter. There is also a positive trend in all major industries. The largest growth is demonstrated by the construction industry, trade, as well as information and communications. I would like to note separately the significant potential for the transport industry. Located in the center of Eurasia, Kazakhstan is the largest transit hub in the region. A capable infrastructure has been developed for all types of transport. There is 12 airports with open skies and 11 international transport corridors, including 5 rail and 6 car roads. The annual volume of transit exceeds 20 million tons. There is an annual increase in demand for transport and logistics service in the light of the dynamic development of trade between Asia and Europe. Kazakhstan has outlined big plans for the formation of cross-border hubs that will increase the potential of the north-south and east-west transport corridors. These are the seaports of Aktau and Krok, the dry ports of Khargos, and well as the International Center for Industrial Cooperation, Central Asia, on the border with Uzbekistan and others. These hubs contribute to the expansion of trade flows with high-borrowing countries and further with international markets. To fully unlock the potential of interregional trade, we need to improve the transport connectivity of the region. In this context, Kazakhstan welcomes the readiness of the Uzbek side to intensify work in this direction. Dear participants of the session, as I have already noted, our country has huge potential to attract global capital and investments. At the same time, thanks to the EBRD platform, to only trade and economic relations are developing, but also cultural, scientific, and diplomatic ties are being strengthened. In conclusion, let me once again thank our Uzbek friends for the hospitality and expresses confidence that this event will give a significant additional impetus to the further development of cooperation between our furthers. Thank you for your attention. Rahmat.
Thank Thank you very much, Mr. Campbell, for your insightful remarks and providing us with an overall view of the opportunities as well as the investment climate in Kazakhstan from the government's lenses. I can see that you have focused on the transport links quite a bit. But before I turn to Katya to discuss the transport and the connectivity theme, I'd like to open our first poll. So please take out your phones, and then the QR code will be here and then also in front of you. We will have the first question. We will ask you, what are the key impediments to further development of Trans-Caspian corridors? So now, let me turn to Katya. Katya, as I said, is our Director for Infrastructure, responsible for Eurasia, basically Central Asia and the Caucasus. Katya, EBRD is currently carrying out a study on the sustainable transport connections between Europe and Central Asia, which will indeed be presented this Friday in the EU Central Asia Economic Forum in Almaty. In light of this, and also from your perspective as you cover the region infrastructure in the wider region, what are the key bottlenecks hampering the higher utilization of the Trans-Caspian routes for international transportation? How EBRD can support the development and implementation of these investments to facilitate these operations? And how can EBRD contribute to establishment of more enabling environment? So in other words, how do you assess the situation?
Yes, thank you, Hüseyin. Indeed, the middle corridor has become a hot topic. There are more and more traffic going through the middle corridor, and that's the corridor between China and Europe via Central Asia, via the Caspian Sea. Indeed, there will be an economic forum in Almaty this Friday on EU Central Asia connectivity, and indeed we've done a study which basically identified that in order to meet the demand for traffic in the next 13 years, about 18.5 billion euros of investments would be required along the middle corridor. And we are talking about mainly Central Asian countries and mainly Kazakhstan, because Kazakhstan is going to be the main recipient of these investments. So what are the main challenges we see at the moment along the corridor? So it's basically not enough capacity at some of the ports, mainly on the Kazakh side, like Aktau port needs additional investments to increase capacity. Also, partially on the Georgian ports. But along this middle corridor, lots of investments would be required into the rail infrastructure, building double tracks, electrifying the railways, building rail bypasses around cities, and also investing into roads. Because in some parts, and of course Kazakhstan is a huge and large country, so in some parts of Kazakhstan, new roads to be built. So what we have been doing from the EBRD side, we have been investing a lot in logistics, and we plan to do more, working with private logistics operators, along the middle corridor, and invest in helping them to develop business and increase capacity at logistics terminals. We also, working with the government of Kazakhstan to see whether we can do more financing in roads and railways. But we've already done some projects that help the middle corridor. For example, a couple of years ago, we provided financing to the Almaty Ring Road. It's an Almaty bypass, also called Bakat. This project was structured as a PPP, and it's $750 million in capital expenditures. And this project, it was financially closed in 2020, and it's going to be opened this summer, well ahead of schedule, which again showed that private capital can deliver, and can deliver quicker sometimes than the public side. So we expect more private sector participation in these projects along the middle corridor, because of course the governments will play a role, but public finance won't be enough to fill this funding gap. Again, this 18.5 billion euros is a huge amount. So maybe not all of these investments will be done, but nevertheless, a number of them are needed. Some of them are urgently needed. So we hope to be part of this process. And of course, what also needs to be done is more on the soft measures, is of course perhaps agreements between the governments along the middle corridor, how to move the goods smoothly, because the goods, they have to pass several borders, cross several borders, to get from Central Asia, for example, to Europe. So, and of course, the smoother their custom clearance will be and the shipment will be, because you also have to change several modes of transport to get from Central Asia to Europe. So the smoother this process will be and the faster cargo can move, so will help and will attract also more investments, because also some of those investments, in particular in logistics, they are demand driven. Again, huge investment needs, and we hope to be part of it, but we also hope to see more private sector and more PPPs, in particular in Kazakhstan.
Thank you, Katya. The importance of connectivity is obvious, and creating complementary alternative routes is also quite important. And also, as you indicated, mobilizing private sector into infrastructure, commercializing infrastructure is also key to be able to undertake these huge investments. Thank you very much. So let's see the results of the first poll. Maybe if we can see it, because it looked into and what the audience actually thinks of the key impediments. Let's see if we can see it. First poll question, there you go. So we can see that, yes, dominance of state operators and lack of competition in accordance to our audience is the key impediments. As you can see, that's the majority. But I think, to be very frank, it is actually a combination of all of these specific factors. So now I would like to turn to Mr. Adil Muhammedjanov, Deputy Chairman of the Management Board of Bayterek. And Bayterek holds a number of companies in the wide spectrum of financial sectors in Kazakhstan. But here, before I give the floor to you, I want to also open the floor for another poll. And our question will be on EBRD support to partner financial institutions. Which program is currently offered, program or programs by the EBRD for partner financial institutions in Kazakhstan? So please go to the poll and cast your vote. So currently, Bayterek owns 3 banks in Kazakhstan: Development Bank of Kazakhstan, and a special mortgage bank called Otbasi Bank, yes, and then a full-pledged commercial bank now called Berekev. Firstly, how do you assess the situation in the country's banking sector? What are its main challenges, trends, opportunities? And in this context, of course, what is Bayterek's strategy for managing all of these banks? And also, secondly, I would kindly also ask you, last year, the acquisition of Sberbank Kazakhstan by Bayterek was one of the largest transactions in Kazakhstan in 2022. And after rebranding to Bereke Bank, we know that Bayterek has plans to privatize in the near future. What would be also the process for privatization, and what would be your target timeline? I think you also have a PowerPoint presentation, so if you can get up the first presentation, that would be great. So the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Hüseyin. Yes, if you allow me, I'll first little background information about Bayterek. Yes, as you said, Bayterek is the state-owned financial holding. What government did is it's joined all major DFIs into our financial holding. Right now we have 8 subsidiaries, and 3 of them are banks, as you said. And the size of Bayterek right now is about little under $30 billion under management. The role of Bayterek in financing, we have Development Bank of Kazakhstan with the market share of long-term non-commodity loans to the sector is about 50%. And then we have thank you for the presentation. Then we have Otbasi Bank. You said it is a special mortgage bank, and it's the only bank in Kazakhstan who provide construction saving mechanism to provide mortgage lending. And the market share, if you talk last year numbers, 65% of all mortgage loans were issued by Odbasi Bank. Yes, last year we completed the transaction, the deal with to purchase Sberbank of Kazakhstan. And first of all, why we did it? The main reason is before February events, Sberbank Kazakhstan was the second largest commercial bank in Kazakhstan. And on top of that, it was one of the leading banks who finance small, medium enterprises and corporate sector. And of course, government could not let that such big player will, will be removed from the market. So last year we closed transaction. We became 100% shareholders in September last year. What we did, we removed it from all the sanctioned list. So the latest sanctioned list removal was from SDN. We did it early March this year. So we are right now in the process of re-establishing the credit ratings. Hopefully by end of the month we will get our credit ratings back. And as I said, because Bytrek is government owned, and we are not trying to validate in any way the yellow page rule, where the commercial market is, where the private market is. And this is a very good, well-run bank, and what we are looking right now is to find a well-known international strategic partner who can step in and purchase that asset from us and will bring new know-how, new technologies into Kazakhstan, in the serving, in promoting this bank further. Yes, and you can see here like all our subsidiaries in this side. I talked a little bit about the Development Bank of Kazakhstan, Odbasi, and BRK Bank. We also have Damu Fund, which is a very big partner with you, with EBRD. And the size of the Damu Fund, for example, last year, almost the third of all loans that were issued by commercial banks in Kazakhstan were in somehow were like either partially was guaranteed by Damu Fund, or the loans were partially subsidized by Damu Fund, or it was I think about 200 billion tenge. Damu provided preferential loans to commercial banks, so they in order for them to issue loans on more preferable terms. So if you talk about the banking sector, as you said, I think overall banking sector in Kazakhstan performed reasonably well. I think total loans were issued in Kazakhstan grew by 20%. Corporate sector loans grew by almost 10%, and consumer lending grew by almost 31%. And for us, because for government Kazakhstan, it's also important the role of SMEs, and loan to SMEs also jumped to 26% last year. So as I said, there is a very good time to invest in Kazakhstan, and that's why through the privatization, selling BRK Bank to international players, we are looking to attract foreign investors. And Kazakhstan in fintech is growing rapidly. For example, there is a index I know of digital government. Kazakhstan is in top 30, but on top of that, the services that you can get through digital government, Kazakhstan in top 10 is on 8th place. So that's why there's a lot of services you can do. You can get purely online mortgage loans. So you can register collateral during online. So.
Thank you, Adil, for the open and frank discussion. Definitely, both the digitalization across the banking sector and the health of the banking sector is very would create a very attractive value proposal for international players to come back to Kazakhstan on the financial market side as well. We will be also watching very closely the privatization efforts, especially on the Bereke side. So can we see the second poll results on the financial sector? So let's see what you have thought of the services that we provided. All of the above is absolutely correct. As EBRD, to our partner financial institutions, we provide trade facilitation as well as women in business, as well as our green economy financing frameworks. So hopefully we will see more partner financial institutions where we can collaborate and cooperate to increase our impact across these three main themes. Now, before also I'm going to turn to my left, before I introduce Claudine to you, the QR code is out there. We will slowly move into the renewables, but I would like to also to go to the next poll question, which we will see the results right after Claudine's intervention. While you're casting vote of to the questions, let me turn to Claudine Zhu, Chief Financial Officer of the China Power International Holding Company, an international investor of renewables, including in Kazakhstan, and in fact, one of our clients where we financed 3 of their projects, both on the wind side as well as on the solar side in various regions of Kazakhstan. Now, let me turn to you. What is the role of private sector in Kazakhstan's ambitious strategy on achieving carbon neutrality by 2060? As you know, President Tokayev has signed off on the long-term decarbonization, and renewables is a big part of it. And secondly, can the private sector be a pioneer, or do you think the public sector should play a role? And also I want to combine this question with what are the Kazakh renewable market advantages and disadvantages or challenges from an international investor perspective?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hüseyin. My name is Claudine, and I'm very honored to be invited by EBRD to attend this conference and also today's session. So before I answer the question, please let me take this opportunity to introduce you about who we are. I come from China Power International Holding Limited. This company is a subsidiary of SPIC, our group. The group name is SPIC, State Power Investment Corporation, which is one of the largest China power generators. By the end of March of 2023, the total installed capacity of SPIC has reached 235 gigawatts, and among it, around 67% is renewables. So our group has, in the past 5 years, has invested quite a lot in the solar and wind and biomass, etc., renewable energies. And we also want to realize the strategy to become the carbon neutralization strategy. And as to CPIH, the company that I work, by the end of the last year, 2022, the total installed capacity reached 55 gigawatts, and we invest in China and also overseas. So our overseas installed capacity is around 7 gigawatts by the end of last year. And Vietnam, Kazakhstan, Mexico, Australia, Brazil are those quite important market area to us. And regarding to the Kazakhstan, we have strong presence. Just like you mentioned, we invest solar and wind project. Those are in operation, and we also invest some projects is now under construction. So totally, we have owned 500 megawatts projects in Kazakhstan, and we invested in the states like Jangpur and Karaganda and Akmola. So in the northern part and southern part, we have established, taken shape of the synergy for the regional synergy. So I think regarding to the question you mentioned, whether how is the role of the private sector and whether the private sector should be the pioneer, I think from the numbers just I mentioned and our presence in Kazakhstan, the answer is definitely yes, because that's our mandate. Our mission is to, through our investment in renewable sectors, and help China and Kazakhstan and the other countries who already mentioned their strategy to be the carbon emission reduction and also carbon neutralization strategy. But I think we also have to bear in mind that without the public sector support, the private sector cannot fulfill these big ambitions. So just as the governor gave us the speech and told us that they gave so many advantages and in the policy, and also gave the very good legal framework and good foreign investment policies. So combine that, then I think we can forecast a good future in the renewables in Kazakhstan and also in the Central Asia. In terms of the second question about the advantages and some challenges for our international private investors to the Kazakhstan, I think obviously the advantages, because I'm the CFO, so we often firstly look at the financial side, right? Whether the foreign currency exchange rate is stable, and whether we can collect in the funding resource, whether the tariff receivables is stable and there's no delay, etc. So those are the key important factors. And when we recall in the history, we can see on August 20, 2015, Kazakhstan government lifted the currency risk, moved swift to the free exchange rate, and observed that we see some fluctuation of the foreign exchange rate. There's a big depreciation on the very day, but we can see in the past few years, fortunately, we can see the exchange rate keep very stable. So this is a quite good signal for us. That's the reason why we can be confident to invest in Kazakhstan. And also the other quite important reason is the multilateral banks like EBRD, who can take the risk of the exchange risk, and also the government of Kazakhstan give the investor that the tariff can be linked change with the inflation rate and the exchange rate. So to some extent, we can naturally hedge our revenue risk and the funding currency fluctuation. But besides the financial goodness of that change, I think in Kazakhstan, in the renewable sector, the natural resources is quite excellent. So in the wind sectors, we can see that the speed is around 10 meters per second. So and the usage of these natural resources is less than 10% of the potentials. So there is a quite enormous room for us to develop the natural resources. Regarding to the challenges, I think because there are so many competitors and private sectors coming to this market, so we also hope that our power grid can be strong enough for the renewables, and we may not encounter the phenomenon that happened in the other country. That is, the receivables maybe become delayed. And in the winter, we know in the northern part of Kazakhstan, it may give the investors some challenges for the project management in operation in such a low temperature. And for the ESG issues, whether too many wind turbines will impact the bird immigration. Those are the key things we have to pay attention to that. So those are the advantages and challenges in my mind. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Claudine. Yes, I want to highlight again the PPA, the Power Purchase Agreement. There were some new amendments that was done in Kazakhstan as well, which allowed for both FX and or inflation, depending on how indexation, how you want to finance, and it gives the flexibility and also the natural hedge, as you said. I think it is important, and also the length of the contract, which does give more comfort to the investors. Also, we look at it quite closely from a bankability point of view, so you're absolutely right. And these projects are, from EBRD point of view, Category A projects, so we also look into all of these environmental and social due diligence is also extremely important, as you said, the bird migration routes and also the impact on that, especially on the wind side, is clear. But the potential is enormous, and it's a never-ending potential. It's a continuous potential in Kazakhstan on renewables, and it will play a very important role, as you indicated, in terms of the road to carbon neutrality for Kazakhstan. Okay, so I would like to see the results of the renewable question that we had, and let's see, maybe there might be some surprise. Okay, so the question was, what was the share of newly built renewable energy investments was financed by EBRD in Kazakhstan? So the majority said it was 30%. It is actually 40%. So 40% of the renewable energy, newly built renewable energy capacity in Kazakhstan was financed by EBRD, and also in conjunction with Development Bank of Kazakhstan, as well as our partners too. Okay, so now I will go to critical raw materials, last but not least. But again, can we have the QR code for one more minute while I'm introducing Alex here, so that we have one last question, one last poll question. Please do cast your vote. Okay, Mr. Alex Walker, he is the Chief Executive Officer. He is joining us also from Brussels at the moment, of the E-Star Resources Company. So, Alex, we know that you're in Brussels and you're attending the EIT Raw Materials Summit, which is Europe's leading conference of the raw materials sector. And thank you for joining us from there, and also good luck with the event. We know that you're managing a listed junior exploration company who has 3 projects in Kazakhstan. That's gold, copper, and also rare earth materials, which I want to focus on today on the critical raw materials side. And also in light of the MOU that was signed last year between EU and Kazakhstan on cooperation on the critical raw materials. So my questions to you are, what is the easiest and what is the most difficult in doing business in the mining sector in Kazakhstan? And relatedly, of course, what would be the single advice to a foreign or local investor considering investing into the mining sector in Kazakhstan? I think you also have a presentation, so I will also kindly ask for the presentation to be loaded up. Alex, floor is yours.
I do, and thank you very much. And I have to say, it's an honour to be included in this very distinguished panel as such a small company such as ours. So I very much appreciate the invitation to the EBRD. And perhaps before I start the presentation, it's a very good point. The fact that I'm at the European Institute for Innovation and Technology conference in Brussels at the moment there's a couple of key driving points, actually, or talking points of the conference. And Europe is now starting to spend, like the US is with the Inflation Reduction Act, hundreds of billions of dollars in decentralizing their supply chain, and EBRD is quite a major part of that, because they want to become a lot more self-sufficient. But Kazakhstan has signed a memorandum of understanding, one of 4 countries that's already signed, and there's a few in the pipeline with Europe, to be a strategic partner for critical and strategic mineral supply. But there's some major aspects that have come up at this conference as to why they can't do this in Europe in the same way. And the 5 key points are social acceptance, permitting, skills, mineral wealth, which is quite a big one, and financing is the last one. And I just see this, Kazakhstan ticks just about every one of those boxes fantastically. Social acceptance is brilliant in Kazakhstan. It's very much a mining-centric country, and I've got some wonderful anecdotes from our dealing with Shemanayaka and with Kostanay and so on in some of our jurisdictions as to how fantastic they've been in support for us. Permitting has become absolutely fantastic in recent years. In 2018, the mineral law changed to mirror that of Western Australia, so it used to take a few years to get an exploration license, and now takes 10 days. The skills are very much there, and I don't need to touch on that point. There's an absolute dearth of expertise here, a wealth of expertise here. And the mineral wealth, we wouldn't be here without that. So the only thing that Kazakhstan is falling short on a little bit is financing, and I'll talk to that a little bit with our presentation. So if I may, I'll give you a quick rundown of our company. If you can go to the next slide for me, please. So this is what I'm going to touch on today, basically, a few things that with regards to our experience, so our assets, and then our experience in Kazakhstan, and a few things we'd like to see improved. So next slide, please. Just back one. A few parts that we're touching on there with regards to operating in Kazakhstan. I don't need to really sell the jurisdiction that much to this crowd. Low mining costs or operating costs is a really big one, and it's focused on, principally the major input costs are the price of power and fuel, and the price of labour. And there's 3 things that Kazakhstan has, in spades, is low fuel and labour costs. But that will change, and we want that to change. We want labour costs to increase. We're fairly certain that the country wants to look at decentralising their or opening up their gas supply to market pricing, and obviously the grid is starting to change to a gas supply grid as well. So the country needs to start to prepare for that cost inflation that will come in time. But as it stands today, a mine in Kazakhstan is probably better than the same mine anywhere else in the world in terms of operating costs. So we're extremely happy to be here, and we're starting to see other companies come in and explore, and there'll be a few names I think we can add to that list below. We've certainly seen Barrick and groups like First Quantum, start to show a strong interest in coming to Kazakhstan. So next slide, please, and I'll go through the first of our assets, which is the Rudny Altai Copper Belt. Is absolutely phenomenal and world class, and one of the comments to me by a major global mining company was that it's probably the worst marketed VMS belt in the world, because its mineral endowment is absolutely fantastic, and the Vakuba copper lead zinc deposit was actually one that E-Star pegged. So we applied for a license and got it, and as it turns out, we have quite a substantial copper deposit on that license, which has been from processing data. And that's the story of us exploring in Kazakhstan. There's an absolute wealth of data. Getting access to it, processing it, understanding it, and reinterpreting it is critical, and that's what we're starting to do today. So this is one project which we'll be starting to drill in the next couple of months, but 42,000 metres of drilling, and as well as geophysics and so on, is not insignificant, and to repeat that work today would cost $10 to $15 million. So that's money that we don't have to spend, and that is speed at which we can potentially bring this project into production. Next slide, please.
Okay, before you go on to the next slide, We would like to thank Katya. She has a very high-level important meeting that she could not miss. So thank you very much. And we can continue afterwards. And if you have questions, I will try to answer. Thank you very much. Alex, back to you now. Thank you. Sorry about that.
So the telluric rare earths deposit is another one that we believe we can advance very quickly. It's showing the hallmarks of a deposit which is called an ionic absorption clay, which is the principal heavy rare earth production which comes out of South China at the moment, and has become quite prevalent for companies such as us in looking for deposits like this. Very specific metallurgical qualities which will allow ultimately comparably low-grade rare earth projects, easy liberation, easy mining, and so on to get into production. So once again, this was, we actually farmed in with a local partner on this one, a company called Phoenix Mining, run by some exceptional people, exceptional Kazakhs. And again, this was finding historical data, analysing that data, and applying for a licence, which is what they did. And now I think East Star Resources are reaping the benefits of that. So we drilled that last year and had some absolutely exceptional rare earth results off the back of that. We're currently conducting leach test work, and everyone is aware. We made the comments about wind farms and how much Kazakhstan has the potential for that. Well, it would be fantastic to have those wind farms built with magnets that were made from rare earths produced in Kazakhstan. And Kazakhstan is one of only a handful of countries that has actually separated rare earths, individual rare earth elements, historically. The Irtysh Chemical Processing Plant, actually not too far from our licenses in Rudny Altai. And so there is some expertise sort of hanging around in the system, shall we say, and so with any luck we can bring these deposits to to production using that Kazakh expertise, which I discussed previously. So this is tremendously exciting for us. And time will tell on whether or not we can move this towards production. But the very first step for that is leach test work, and as I say, we'll be conducting that. We're expecting the results of our first round of leach test work in the very near future. Next slide, please. So there's a few comments that I'd like to make around what we believe Kazakhstan can do better. I made the comment that it's an absolutely wonderful place to operate, but my belief is that that fifth aspect that I mentioned previously, the financing aspect, still has a lack of understanding in terms of exploration. So the mineral system and the tax system is principally built for producers, which is assets that have been known for decades upon decades, and a lot of the time have been in production for decades upon decades. Whereas we need to incentivize exploration. And the very first thing to do that is transparency, license transparency. So being able to have a quick turnover, so to speak, of licenses, understand what people, what they've done on those licenses, how much money they've spent, and the status of those licenses, because we can spend a lot of time and money, and wasted money, in fact, advancing projects only to find out that that something can't happen because there's an ecological area over that license, which we just simply didn't know about, and no one brought that to our attention until too late. Aligning interests is another major one, and all governments, I think, around the world struggle to do this perfectly. But it's my contention that what everyone wants is to extract the absolute most out of every discovery, out of every deposit. And so what you want to do is you want to completely align interests for the miner to make the most amount of money and extract the best from a deposit, which means that the government will do the same. So converting a mineral extraction tax to a net smelter royalty is exactly one of the examples that we can use there. And reducing cost of administration. So that's a general comment around efficiencies. We mentioned labour costs before. It's a good thing labour costs are low comparatively in Kazakhstan because you need a big team to achieve the same result. The administrative burden in Kazakhstan is heavy. And so, we would love to see that lessened and simplified. And that would actually give the capacity to pay staff more money as well. And so I think it's one of these system efficiencies which will help change the working dynamic of the Kazakh population and help improve or change exactly what their job roles are as the system becomes digitized and becomes more efficient. Next slide, please. So we talk about this in terms of competition because it is a competition for exploration dollars, and Kazakhstan does tick just about every box. Social acceptance, permitting's become exceptional. Skills, mineral wealth, are 4 absolute key areas, which I can say the vast majority of the world does not have. More advanced nations think social acceptance is really tough, and Australia and Canada are no doubt the global leaders in terms of mining, permitting, social acceptance, and so on, because it's in the blood of the population. And yet, even though they're incredibly advanced on that, they still compete heavily for exploration dollars. The governments are providing not just tax incentives, actual money, to go into the ground. They are providing surveys, flying new data over new areas to incentivize global explorers and local explorers to come in and make new discoveries. And that's being demonstrated in the discoveries that are being made. They're by far and away the biggest investment jurisdictions in the world for mining exploration are Australia and Canada. And so,
my apologies.
Sorry, I'm going.
Can you wrap up in the last minute, please? We need
yeah,
to
absolutely,
vacate the room soon. Thank you very much.
I'll make the comment then purely that we would love to see Kazakhstan just release the data that it has, because it has an absolute incredible library of data that would be so easy to scan and upload to the internet and virtually cost nothing. And that is exactly what we'll see, a crazy amount of exploration dollars come into Kazakhstan. Okay. That's probably my final major point. You can do great things in Kazakhstan if you have the right team. If you want to go to the last slide. We would love to see the country simplify and digitise and align themselves with miners better, but we're having a wonderful time there. 3 assets. I think we've got 3 potential operating mines in each of those assets, and so time will tell whether or not we can demonstrate that.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Alex, for your comments. I think it is very well noted. The current conditions are quite welcoming, but there are still a number of items that can be now, or actions that can be taken to even further improve. I just want to quickly see the result to our last poll, and then I will be closing the session afterwards. Exactly, Kazakhstan is the country that has 30% of the world's reserves in chrome, 25% of manganese, 12% of uranium, 10% of iron ore, and 10% of copper, and 13% of lead and zinc. You can see the endless possibilities, opportunities of Kazakhstan. So I would like to thank each and every participant or panelist for a wonderful discussion that we had. And I would like to also tell you that we have one little surprise at the end. We will be signing a memorandum of understanding with one of Bayterek companies, which is Damu Fund, in the presence of our governor, Mr. Campbell, and also Deputy Chairman of Bayterek. Now, if you'd like to stay around for the signing, you're more than welcome. Otherwise, I would like to thank our panelists, and thank you very much for listening to us. Thank you.